Welcome to Film Freaks. This is Justin Llewellyn
and Eddie Williams,
and now we're doing a retrospective of the Child's Play films, which were released in the '80s, and these are a series of films that basically capitalize on the success of, hey, let's take a action figure and turn it into a horror film.
Yeah, an action figure doll, and this was turned into a slasher. Genre. Yep.
And so basically we have a story about a killer who is on the run, and he gets caught. Charles Lee Ray, played by Brad Dourif, and he gets caught by a cop into this toy factory who gets shot by the cop and basically dies. But before he dies, he does this ritual where he basically transforms his soul into a doll.
Yep.
And I gotta tell you right now, when I was little, I gotta admit, man, when I was little, I used to be scared of looking at. When I used to play with action figures, I used to be scared of like seeing dolls and shit, because fucking Child's Play used to scare the shit out of me by doing that.
What I really praise about the first Child's Play that they really captured, it's equivalent to the first one. They make Chucky fucking in this movie. Let alone, man, a lot of that practical looks really up, still can do, like, to this day.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Now, there are obvious shots where it's obviously a child playing the doll. In some parts where, you know, when he's walking and stuff, where it's obviously a doll. But still, even the one they did back then, I still, to this day, it's still...
You can still believe the whole walk, though.
Yeah.
It's a doll, you know, that's what he is.
Yeah.
So, we get to the scene where he meets Andy.
Yeah.
Where Andy ends up at a store with his mom, and they end up buying a doll.
Well, what happened was, okay, so then we get introduced to Andy Barkley, who is it's his sixth birthday, and his mom is going to get him a toy. So his mom at her job gets talked into by her friend by going to this homeless dude who sells him a toy that they found at an abandoned toy store that they found. And she buys it for about $50.
Yep.
And basically she takes it home to Andy, and Andy is fun with it. But then we start to get a scene, we get to notice that there's something unusual about this doll, because there's a scene that happens where his aunt actually, like, gets
well, like, the kid starts noticing some things with the doll, and it's saying some really brutal shit to him.
Yeah.
And he starts getting and it starts walking away, and it starts not being in areas where he's not putting it at.
Yeah.
And he's feeling like slowly that this doll is actually a live person.
Yeah, this one, I can honestly say, this one feels very psychological as far as the doll part, because there are moments in the film where the film kind of makes you think that Andy's probably doing the murders and stuff, because it does like a point of view shot where you don't see the killer, and it's doing like shots where the victims are killed off, but you don't see who the person's doing it and stuff. Yeah. So you're kind of led to believe that either A, Andy is either making this up in his head where he's imagining that the doll is doing it, or B, that the doll is actually doing it. So I do like that approach they went with it, because it gives you kind of a ambiguous, like a psychological approach they approach with it.
So, like, everybody starts dying around Andy, and basically Andy finds out that the doll is alive, and his name is Chucky.
Yeah, and he was formerly a killer known as Charles Lee Ray. And so as it progresses, you're starting to see the cop, played by Chris Sarandon, who was also on Fright Night.
Yep.
He plays the cop who's investigating the case, and he doesn't believe the mother, because he feels like, well, as anyone sane would, that she's making up crazy stories, that her son is saying that her doll is real and stuff. But as the film progresses, when you see him actually attacking Chucky and stuff, you start to see that this cop, he is like, yeah, this is just like when he tried to kill me when he was a fucking human.
Yeah.
You know?
And he starts... It's funny, because that is the cop that was after Charles Lee Ray. He was on the investigation of that guy.
Yeah,
so Chucky ends up starting to killing people one by one in front of Andy, and Andy's trying to convince people, like, hey, you know, my doll's doing this, and they're, like, not believing him, obviously, because, you know... They're like, no way a doll could do that. And, well, then we start to learn that the doll is needing to be... he has a certain time period he has to get into another human body. So he tries to use the Heart of Damballa, which is a voodoo ritual a curse that he can actually leave the body of where he's at and go
and transfer into another human.
And he has to do it at a certain time, or he's stuck in that doll forever.
Yeah, and as we reach the final, and I gotta tell you, man, for this film, I can say still up to this day. Like, I love this movie a lot.
I'm gonna tell you right now, this is probably, I'm gonna say right now, is the best doll slasher film I've ever seen.
Yeah, now I've seen some of the Puppet Master movies and some of the other like short kind of like mascots they use for slasher films, but this is the one that kickstarted.
Yeah,
this is the one
is the mainstream.
This is the one that got me into being scared of dolls when I was younger.
Yeah.
And it made me feel like I was watching. I was like, "Holy shit, man!" You know, anything could happen anything could happen when I was a little kid.
Yeah, and this is actually my favorite out of the franchise of Chucky. This is the best one.
Yeah,
and I really praise this one. It's the best doll slasher film. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10.
Yeah, it's about a 9 out of 10 for me too. Like, the only issues I kind of had was, even though they kind
of had more body counts,
but also the way the direction went, where it's kind of tricking you into thinking that the boy's doing it, but then there's obvious shot where you know the doll's doing it. It kind of makes you think.
You get the Charles right at the beginning anyway, so it's like,
that's what I'm saying. The direction they went, where you're kind of thinking the boy's probably doing it, kind of throws you off, because had they not included that prologue, it probably would have worked a little better.
Yeah.
But overall, yeah, I do love it. It's a classic. And then we get to Chapter 2, which is Child's Play 2, which I gotta say, like, I find this one very underrated, because I feel like this one is a good sequel, even though it's not as good as Up Par with the first movie. But as a good slasher film, this one ups the fucking brutality.
It ups the brutality. You get more body count. But here we go. We get Andy back again. But now Andy's mom is giving him up for adoption.
Yeah, and you show in the beginning where you see the Chucky being revived by basically being turned into the factory.
We actually see the factory where those dolls are being made.
Which I do like that scene, because it shows the construction of how he's being made and stuff.
Yeah, but that is kind of a continuity problem. The only issue I have in this scene is, like, how did Chucky know to go back in that doll? You know, that was the only bother part. But other than that, we get to now Andy's in a foster care now. He's been adopted. His mom don't want him anymore because of the events from part 1. She's thinking he's nutso. She don't want nothing to do with him. She has a deadbeat mom. She's gone out of the picture. She never comes back in these films. She disappears. So Andy is now set to a foster family, and a family ends up adopting him.
Yeah, and who's also the foster mother is actually played by the woman from American History, or American Werewolf in Paris, or I'm sorry, American Werewolf in London from the first from that one. Yeah. So he gets adopted by this family, and I actually really, you know what I really like about this movie the most is that I really like the chemistry between him and the sister. I thought him and the sister had a lot of... He has
an adopted sister in this one, and basically Chucky's hunting him down and finding out where he lives at now, so he can find him again from the events, get his revenge from the first one, and to try to get him back into the body, because he really wants Andy's body.
Yeah, and basically what happens is body counts come up, and this time we're seeing a lot more brutal shit this time. Yeah. Now, there is one, because some of the deaths they do are pretty, like, brutal, especially the part where the dude, like, takes a bag over the dude's head and fucking suffocates him.
He's like, he's like fucking him, suffocating him, and mentally torturing the dude, thinking everything's gonna be fine, but then he fucks with him and suffocates him.
Yeah, I love that scene.
Then he gets an address, and he ends up replacing himself by killing wasn't a live doll, and he gets rid of the other doll and buries it, and then fucking replaces himself as the doll that was actually in the closet of Andy's new home.
Yeah. And then, now one death, and I also love the deaths they have at the end, where it's in the factory and stuff, but one death I do kind of find kind of puzzling nowadays, since I've recently watched it. That death they had where it was the teacher in the school, I thought it was kind of laughable, because he kills her with a fucking ruler.
Yes, I remember rulers back in my days where they had the sharp edge, and they had the little metal thing attached to it, but I really don't see him slashing the girl to pieces with the fucking ruler. I mean, let's be for real. Because it was better off, could have brought a kitchen knife with him.
Yeah, because it shows like a whole point of view where it cuts back to like the shot of the window, and it shows
the kid do. like where he's like music playing,
Yeah.
and he like slashes her. I like his like comedy lines because he's great with this.
You've been a
like,
bad teacher, Mrs. Whatever her name is, and it shows like a point of view of the ruler going up and down on this from the window.
Well, for what it's worth, on some of the brutality, we do get a lot of off-scene set.
Like the part where the foster parent gets killed, the mother. Remember when it cuts to her like doing on the like the sewing machine?
So you only see her.
Her dead body.
At the end where she's strangled.
Now, I do like the part where the foster dad gets cut.
Yeah, and it's pretty funny because he actually falls from the stairs. He's dangling down. He goes, "How's it hanging, Chuck?" Mm-hmm. And then he fucking drops his ass and he fucking breaks his fucking neck and dies. Yeah. And
my favorite death is the part
where...
And
it's funny because most of this movie, when Andy finds out that Chucky's alive again, Chucky, no one's believing Andy yet again in this film. And the whole movie's got a lot of scenes where it's pretty much like where Chucky's like breaking valuable shit or just doing weird, moving shit around, and they're just yelling at Andy. Basically, Chucky's playing with Andy and just getting Andy in trouble in this movie. Yeah, now there is one part that I do thought was one of the most brutal parts of the movie. Well, besides the ending, of course, but the part where he's at the orphanage home and yet again, and he gets caught up where the orphanage lady takes him and takes the doll, and then he starts putting her fucking face in the copier machine and all that. Yeah,
I thought that was a good death scene.
Yeah.
And then we get to the final confrontation where you have that scene where that dude gets his, like, what happened where he gets his fucking face, like, in the machine and he's like melted or whatever in the factory.
No, what happened was, alright, we get to the scene where the factory, we go through, we're not going too much detail, so basically the sister starts seeing the deaths and she basically, her and Andy, Chucky takes actually the sister in hostage. They end up at a factory. Well, Chucky ends up doing some like thing where he pushes. She knows Andy's there and she breaks free from Chucky. Well, Chucky's looking for her, but he notices there's a worker there, and basically he kicks the worker in, and the worker gets his head like where these clamps hold on his head, and they push the doll eyeballs through his eyeballs.
I remember that. Yeah,
and he's dead and. Basically, now Chucky's trying to do his revival of trying to be, get in Andy's body, and Andy gets away. But this is where it really gets cool. It's where they fucking brutality what they do to Chucky.
Yeah, they put Chucky in the machine.
I think this is probably one of the best brutalities of all the franchises.
Yeah, I thought this ending where it has this final climax where they have him in the machine and he's coming out like all deformed and shit, where he's actually trying to still survive. I thought that was more gruesome than the first movie because in this one you see him all like melted and shit where he can still keep going. Mm-hmm. In this one they make it to where he's still going.
All kinds of shit to him, man. They're melting him. He won't die. They stabbed him. He won't die. They shot him. He won't die. And then finally, the climax, they blow his fucking brains out with the hair thing.
Yeah, I remember that. So yeah, that was a great climax, especially how it's like it all comes together with the factory too, because that's the factory that he was born in.
Yeah, So I gotta say it's an 8 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, it's about 8 out of 10 for me too. It has probably some mishaps here and there with some of the deaths they could have worked a little better on, but I do love some of the comedy they used to, like the part where she get the sister and Andy get pulled over by the cop, the sister and Chucky get pulled over by the cop, and she's saying he's got a gun pointed to her and saying, "Don't you fucking do anything," and then the cop says, she tells the cop,
bleeding.
He starts bleeding, and then she says to the cop like, it's like, yeah, you ever seen a doll that pees? Well, this one bleeds. Yeah. So yeah, I really do enjoy this one. I thought it was a good, worthy, follow up to the first movie. Mm-hmm. Not as good as the first one as far as the psychological approach, but I still like what they did with it. Mm-hmm. Now, so we get into 1991's Child's Play 3, which is now set in a military academy.
Yeah, and this is actually some years past, and now Andy is actually replaced by a new character.
Yeah, Justin Whalen, I believe the dude's name is, and basically the movie starts with a very cool opening scene where it shows Chucky getting created, and it has like that weird, like, how his like face is being created and stuff like that.
Now they do bring Andy, the original character, like a shot scene on a picture. Mm-hmm. They start talking about the history of how Andy is pretty much destroyed their company.
Yeah,
and nobody wants to buy their product, and they want to kind of get away from that because it's been years later.
Yeah.
They're saying, yeah, it's years later. Let's just try to revive this company back again. And then Chucky ends up killing the CEO. He comes back again. I forgot how he was revived. Oh!
Because they created him in the factory.
Yeah, they redid the factory, but their dumbass move, they took some of the... Because they didn't want to do any waste product, they take some of the waste product from Chucky's death, and they put it and mix it up with the Chuckies, and then one of the Chuckies ended up being back to Charles Lee Ray. Chucky's back alive. He ends up killing the CEO. And when he kills the CEO, because the CEO was so addicted about Andy's character, and he was following him to make sure that this mishap don't happen again at Fry's company, Chucky was able to kill the CEO and find out where Chucky went to, or where Andy went to. And Andy is now like 16 years old now.
He's about 17, 18.
Yeah, 17, 18. Now he's at a military academy. So Chucky ends up going to the military academy.
Yeah, basically, and so when Andy gets there, it basically, you know what it kind of reminded me of? The first half kind of reminds me of Full Metal Jacket. Where when he arrives, he's getting shit on by the colonel and everything, and he's basically trying to make new friends and all that. It reminded me of like the first half of Full Metal Jacket.
It was, because the first half really just like, it ain't much Chucky movie anymore. It's kind of military academy, like Full Metal Jacket-ish type feel for like boot camp for kids. And then we get to introduce this new character, is played by this black kid. I forgot his name.
I forgot. The character's Tyler.
Tyler is his name, and basically Chucky comes. He pretty much mails himself. Well, instead of like he was supposed to go to Andy, but he's opened by Tyler. So now Chucky's like, I was supposed to go to Andy, but then he realizes that maybe Andy's probably seasoned and gotten older. He now wants to prey on Tyler now.
Yeah. Because he feels like with him inside... Because what his whole plan is, he wants to transfer his soul into a younger kid, so that way he can still be younger.
Yeah.
And also, basically we get into this plot where Andy is trying to fit in with the other groups of the military academy, but it goes a lot to hell because he's dealing with a lot of that fucking colonel. Which, that colonel, like... He was basically channeling fucking Arlie Emery from Full Metal Jacket.
And not only that... This really takes a lot of Chucky scenes out of it.
Yeah.
Because this is really focusing... Like, you get a lot of scenes where, like, it's Chucky and Tyler, but it's just really just Chucky and Tyler just doing mishap shit. Because it's really focusing on this Colonel hatred for Andy's character.
Yeah. You basically get it to where it's like a different movie, because you'll get scenes, it feels like a complete two different movies in one. You get a military kind of movie with the fucking Colonel and Andy, and then you have the other movie with Tyler and Chucky. I'm like, this really feels out of place for both of those scenes.
Yeah.
You know?
And then we get, when Tyler, some mishaps are starting to happen around the academy. Andy spots one of the colonels, the general, actually carrying the doll away. And that's when he realizes, oh my god, it's a Child's Play doll. It's Chucky. And basically Chucky finally finds his way into Andy's room and reveals himself. And Andy now knows that Chucky's alive. This is where my problem is. Andy pretty much, the way they portray Andy, so he sees Chucky again. I don't feel like the whole psychological damage with Andy in this film, because after seeing Chucky's now yet again, and he says, "Hey, Chucky." Now, I did like Brad Dourif's little comedy line with Chucky where he goes, "Guess what? Chucky's gonna be a bro." Yeah, I did like that. But then, what my problem is Andy just goes back to normal routines, like nothing's really going on.
Yeah, it's just
and
weird.
It's like you're not like psychologically damaged.
Well, that, and the only person he refers anything to is his friend. I forgot the kid's name. The dude with the glasses. Yeah. His friend in the movie, and even he has a hard time believing. Like, man, you're telling all kinds of shit. Yeah. Now, I can understand that nobody would believe that a dude is saying that.
No, I don't believe that Andy. I don't believe Andy in this film. He's not psychologically damaged like he should be. He just goes back to normal routines the next fucking day.
That is weird, because it's like, you get a scene where he confronts Chucky, but then the rest of the movie, it's like, what the fuck?
He's
man?
acting like nothing happened.
Literally, if you took all the scenes out of Chucky, it could just be a military movie.
Yeah, because really, like, Andy's not even, like, remotely fucking damaged that Chucky's back yet again.
Yeah.
And Chucky's even describing how he's fucking after Tyler.
That's what I'm saying.
It was like, okay, so, and then Andy goes back to his normal routine. I'm like, okay, so you're not damaged by this. You're just, like, acting like it never fucking happened. So he's, like, trying to tell everybody about what's going on with Chucky, and then Chucky ends up killing which was one of the coolest scenes where he slits the military dude's throat, the barbershop dudes. Presto, you're bald.
Yeah,
I do like.
I love that shit.
Yeah, I do love that dude.
Trivia note: that dude that was the barbershop, the barbershop owner. He was actually the same guy who played Hellraiser. He was Larry Cotton.
That's cool.
Yeah. So you have him, but also what I do like about the film is it was first of all, Chucky. Brad Dourif, great job.
I mean, they could. The military thing is not bad. It's just,
I like what they do with it. It's just that it feels like a weird, out of place movie.
Yeah, it does.
It feels like its own movie because the fact that he's doing like all these exercises and shit, I'm like, the fuck? This feels like Full Metal Jacket Part 2.
Yeah, a little shittier version of it, but anyways, we get to the scene where, basically, and this is why I don't understand how. He's getting Andy in trouble yet again doing that, but he doesn't care about Andy anymore, which is kind of a turnoff with this film.
Yeah.
Because the Tyler character is what really takes it away from the Andy. I would love to be like the more part where they got rid of Tyler and it should have just been him after Andy throughout this film.
Yeah.
That should have been what they should have done.
Well, I think what their fear was, I think the filmmakers' fear was that they're kind of worried at cop 1 and 2 because they didn't like the whole idea that he would basically be after him the whole time.
Yeah, but that's the thing. The Tyler thing overshadows Andy altogether. That Andy, they don't portray him to be any psychologically damaged from what happened in the past. He just continues on like nothing's happening. And he just keeps ignoring. More dead bodies start popping up.
Yeah.
What does he do? He don't tell anybody.
I mean, really...
You don't get scenes of him trying to describe what's happening.
I mean, it's not until probably the final, close to the third act, where we finally get it to where... Because what's cool... I'll give it this. I love the scene where Chucky mixes the bullets with real bullets.
Yeah.
And then he makes the military from the opposite side where they're doing paintball.
And he sets them up to shoot.
I do love that.
Yeah, I do love that where they actually are killing each other. That was pretty cool. And Chucky's just sitting there laughing, having a good time, watching everybody die. Well, then, now, Andy, throughout the whole film, not doing any fucking thing, he finally says, alright, I should step in finally.
Yeah.
And this is where, that whole I'm just gonna finally step in kind of bothered me. I'm like, man, you're just now fucking gonna do something about this?
Yeah, because the first, you could say, if you took out, let me tell you this, if you took out the first two, all the scenes of Chucky in the first two halves, really, it could have been just a fucking military movie. It didn't really even feel like a child's play movie. Yeah,
so we get to, which was a pretty interesting part, I get into. Well, there happens to be a carnival that is actually set right by the military academy where Tyler's already captured by Chucky. They disappear there, so Andy and this co-star chick of girls' military thing.
It's the chick from Old School.
Yeah. They decide, okay, we should follow... I think they went to that carnival, so they go to this carnival, which is pretty cool, and Chucky ends up slaughtering some, security guard and shit like that, and they end up at a haunted house, which is pretty creepy.
I like that scene.
I end up getting into the whole haunted house thing. That's pretty clever, And then you get the confrontation, and then they pretty much kill Chucky.
By slicing him in those blades.
They pretty much kick him off this big mountain thing where he's cut in a million pieces, and the movie's over with, so... Yeah,
which... Overall, I do like that, how he basically, he gets thrown into the fucking fan, that fucks up his whole, he's torn in half.
He's just torn in pieces, yeah.
So, I'll admit, the movie's not bad, it's just that first two halves, I was just like, man, this really tonally, it feels really weird, because it'll go from, a military kind of movie to, a weird, horror film. Like, the tone is just really out of place.
Yeah, it's really pacey. It's like you get horror film, military, 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 military. Horror film, military, military.
That's what I'm
military.
saying. If they, because honestly,
you can really tell the scenes. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. If they would have cut out like some of the horror parts, the movie probably wouldn't have been of like a bad like boot camp movie,
boot camp drama,
or like a military academy movie.
Yeah, like a younger Full Metal Jacket, like a ROTC type thing.
Yeah, it would have been not bad, but the fact that it's intervened with all the scenes, it just feels out of place. Yeah. You know,
I'm a 5 out of 10 for this one.
It's about 5 out of 10 for me too. Like, it's not bad. It's just that it's very just forgettable.
Yeah,
like I can watch it for some parts, but it's just really like it's not up par with the other two movies.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, so now between this,
we get years.
Before we get to the next movie, because basically what happened was, after this film, they took a break for a while, and then I think it was after the success of Scream that they decided to kind of do more, like, play on the idea of Child's Play.
Yeah.
And now we get it to where, instead of calling it Child's Play, we're just naming the sequels Chucky. Yeah. So now we get the next one, which is Bride of Chucky.
Yeah, we get the Bride of Chucky, which is the 4th installment.
Yeah, so Bride of Chucky is basically not taking the idea of Child's Play, but also, because of the success of Scream, I believe, basically taking the success of Scream, they're making it more humor.
They're making more humor and making fun of shit while trying to be part of the series. Because they do part of the series, because basically when we get Bride of Chucky, he's actually found, and this is pretty cool. This is what I love about this movie. So we introduce with Jennifer Tilly, and she plays this chick who basically was an ex-girlfriend of Charles Lee Ray, and she goes after years later, and she's been tracking him down for many years. She finds out that he's in a police quarantine where his body from part 3, where he's chopped a million pieces, is lying next with Jason and Freddy and Michael Myers.
I love those Easter eggs.
The Easter eggs where they did Freddy, Jason, Michael Myers. They did all our iconic killers. They did a box from fucking Hellraiser and all that. So basically, they go there and she finds Chucky's body and she takes him away. Well, she pays the cop to do it, and she ends up. Pretty much, that was gruesome how she slit his fucking throat.
Yeah.
And he's sitting there just like, the blood is just gruesome.
Yeah.
And then, basically, we get this badass fucking opening where it's Rob Zombie's...
White Zombies, or I'm sorry, Rob Zombie's
Living Dead Girl. I love that fucking song.
I love the soundtrack.
This movie is amazing. It's like right next to like my other good one, Queen of the Damned soundtrack, which I love so much on their soundtrack. But anyways, so we get where Jennifer Tilly is using the Heart of Damballa to bring Chucky back.
Yeah, and basically what happens is we get introduced. We also get to see like an earlier, like one of the Arquette brothers. We get Rosanna Arquette, or I'm sorry, Alexis Arquette, who at the time it was before he did his transition where he became a woman. We get to see Alexis Arquette in an early appearance, and we get to see him like with all covered in tattoos and shit, where he's kind of fucking with.
He's playing like a Marilyn Manson looking.
Yeah, kind of looks like him. Yeah, where he's fucking with Jennifer. Like, yeah, I actually killed a guy. I got a picture right here.
And then she reveals that he's doing makeup. He's like, fuck. He's all pissed off. I love the comedy in this film.
I do too. Yeah. This to me is just like Evil Dead 2, where you can still mix a good horror film, but also a good comedy with it too.
So we get Chucky killing Arquette, and basically he gets his reunion with Jennifer Tilly.
Yeah, because Jennifer Tilly, Tiffany, she resurrects Chucky into the ritual that Chucky does.
And this is what's cool, because they don't give us a brand new doll, they give us a stitched up. She stitched him up.
And I'll admit, man, when I was younger,
they stayed continuity with it.
When I was younger, I gotta admit, man, when I was younger, when I first saw this movie, I was scared. That fucking face they have for Chucky scared the piss out of me.
See, it didn't scare me, obviously, because I'm a lot older.
Well, yeah, but I remember when I was back in the 90s when it first came. Well, actually,
I love that they
when it comes to DVD, it scared the piss out of me.
Well, what I love about it is they stayed continuity with
because in the last movie, he did get killed by the propellers.
That's what happened to him, and she repaired them.
Yeah.
And, well, anyways, him, like I said, Jennifer Tilly is actually an ex-girlfriend for Charles Lee Ray, which is him. You know, they were ex, and she's, she's revived him because they were really good lovers, like big time lovers back in the day. Well, anyways, a little mishaps and differences. She ends up wanting to she pretty much tells Chucky to go fuck himself, and she tries to hold him captive in a cage.
Yeah. Where she puts in another doll, like, say, hey, well, you can have this doll that'll keep you company.
Well, Chucky ends up getting out. He ends up killing Jennifer Tilly, and she becomes... And he does the heart and Dembella.
He does the ritual where she gets her soul transferred into another doll that is also like Chucky.
Yeah, so he can have her on his level.
Yeah. And basically what follows is they go on a killing spree across New Jersey, and they're basically... We get to see an early appearance by Katherine Heigl, and who's the boyfriend, or who's the boyfriend of the main guy in the movie.
Yeah, we get Katherine Heigl, one of our early ones. We get John Ritter in this film.
Yeah, which is he had a funny appearance.
Yeah, so we get basically and then another Arquette, right? Or is that the same Arquette? The gay guy, guy. It is the same dude playing two characters.
Yeah, same dude.
Yeah. Well, anyways, so. We get these characters we introduce, and basically the guy equivalent to the boyfriend, he actually lived in the thing with
trailer park
with Jennifer Tilly, and he needs money to get with Katherine Heigl so they can move on and go on with their lives.
To get away from John Ritter.
John Ritter, which is a restrictive boyfriend, father. Yeah, restrictive father, and. He needs the money so they can run away, and Jennifer Tilly pretty much leaves him $1,000 to take the doll her and the doll Chucky to Chucky's grave. Chucky needs to get to his grave because they buried him with the heart of Damballa.
Yeah,
he now needs a necklace to perform his rituals.
Yeah. And so as it goes along, you start to see killing sprees happening. I gotta tell you, man, when I was younger, well, even this day, I can say some of those death scenes they have in this film still fucking hold up.
The thing is so body count starts stacking up. Well, Katherine Heigl and her boyfriend are getting accused of all these murders because they happen to be in the same area as all these fucking murders are happening, which... I will tell you right now, this movie is fucking brutal.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
This is probably one of the highest body counts.
Because they go on a road trip killing spree, because not only they're killing people along the way, but they're also killing other bystanders. You get killed with John Ritter which had
another cop that was a dickhead.
The needle nose, where he's looking in the...
Flicks him off. There's a lot of 90s feel to this film. That's what I love about it. It reminds me of that Fear. The Fear movie. It's like a lot of weed smoking, a lot of grunge.
Yeah.
I love that 90s feel. That's what I grew up in.
Yeah, me too, especially that. But also I love John Ritter's death, because not only did he get killed by the nails, but they do make fun of it where he's like, huh, why does that look familiar? Where it's making fun of Hellraiser.
Because I've been hell. I know that guy looks familiar. I did like how they reference shit like that.
Yeah. But I also love some of the other brutality too. They come across this motel room that they stay at.
That one where they
had the glass falling
on them. And oh my god, that shit was brutal. Baby.
Oh yeah.
Because they were trying to get married, hitched, and all that. But now Katherine Heigl and her boyfriend are most wanted now because they're being framed for all these fucking murders. And another thing, that one dude, fucking the friend gay dude, David, yeah. Man, he died pretty brutal by that truck, man.
Yeah, when he got fucking flashed. Because when I first watched him, I was like, holy shit, he was the only one. Well, what threw me off was the fact that he didn't get killed by Chucky, because he's the only one of the franchise that didn't do that. Well, but he got killed, and I was like, holy shit, that truck came out of nowhere.
Well, Chucky scared his ass.
Yeah.
And so now he's got Katherine Heigl and the boyfriend captured, and they go on to the cemetery where Charles Lee Ray's body's buried so they can get the heart of Damballa. Yeah. And their plot is him and Tiffany will get in their two bodies.
Yeah. And what I also love too is I love the chemistry with him and with Chucky and Tiffany, because them two bickering back and forth. Yeah. I do love their comedy.
A husband and wife.
Yeah.
And even Chucky and the boyfriend are kind of looking at each other yeah. He goes, that bitch, she don't shut the fuck up, and all that stuff. And it's kind of and then Katherine Heigl's playing the whole woman, trying to set them pretty much up to fight each other. And they get in a fight, which kind of gets Katherine Heigl and the boyfriend kind of where they can break out, and they crash and they break out.
He's like, because the running joke of the film that I do like is the whole Martha Stewart thing. He was like, "Who the fuck is Martha Stewart?"
Yeah.
And then he was like, "Well, Chucky." And then later in the movie, Chucky's like, "Well, Martha Stewart wouldn't do that." And then Tiffany's like, "Fuck Martha Stewart."
And we forgot to mention, which actually leads to the conclusion of the film. Chucky and Tiffany fuck.
Yeah.
And we see two dolls fucking.
Yeah, dude, this was the first time I seen shit like that before I seen Team America.
Yeah.
Where you had dolls fucking.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that was hilarious. But
Yeah.
I just the movie does have a really great blend of not only just great fucking like brutality, but also great humor too. This is one of those films that like Reanimate or something where you can still see the comedy, but still mix in with a great mix of humor.
Yeah. And like ends where actually a baby comes out.
And that ended through my mind. I was like, holy shit, because that baby looked fucking creepy.
Now, I will say it was kind of anticlimactic where Chucky, after all he's been through, he died by gunshot wounds.
Yeah.
That was a little...
To be fair, though, the first movie they did point out that if you shoot him in the heart, he can still die.
Yeah, well, I don't know, man. This dude's... But you gotta think. He suffered like blades that chopped him a million pieces. He blew up in part 2, and it's like, all right, gunshot wound. Really, that was kind of anticlimactic a little bit. And I mean, it was cool that it took like Tiffany and him to like fight each other. That they pretty much killed each other, and he lays rest with his body, and we get the baby at the end. So, anyways, I'm gonna say, I really fucking love this movie.
I do too.
I
really
love this movie.
I
found out that I can watch this movie more than what I can a year.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go 9 out of 10 with this film.
I'm gonna give it probably a 8, like probably a 9 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 for me as well. Like the movie.
All right, like I said, the first one I gave 9 out of 10, and this one I gave 9 out of 10. I give the one a little edge with because he's more eviler. But this movie, 4 is almost tied with 1.
Yeah, this one, much like with the first one, but what I love because of the fact that they use a lot of satire in this one, where it's all dark humor, but also keeping the continuity wise, and also keeping it very brutal. I do love this one how they're trying to mix it, kind of like Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, where they're still a great blend of great brutality and great horror, but also with comedy.
4 is actually my second favorite of the franchise. Yeah.
So, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10 as well. So, now we get to one of my least, or one of the worst movies of the franchise, in my opinion, is Seed of Chucky.
Seed of Chucky, the 5th installment, the worst Chucky movie out of all of them. I can give some likes of all the Chucky films, but this one was absolutely the Texas Chainsaw 3D piece of shit of the franchise. Yeah, this was dog shit.
It was. Now, basically, the movie starts out with kind of like the first film, where it's kind of more like where you think it's kind of a psychological kind of thing, where it's the point of view of the doll, and he's basically going through this house and killing the girl and everything. Mm. But we realize that whole scene is just a dream sequence, and it basically sets up to where much like the end of the last movie, Tiffany and Chucky had a son this time, and now the son is named Glenn, played by, if you remember, he was Pippin, I believe, from the Lord of the Rings movies, which I saw.
So, anyways, we get into the film. I believe they start out this movie does a lot like satire on the movie sets. Mm-hmm. It starts out where I believe it's a Christmas theme.
Yeah, it starts out where you think it's kind of it's Chucky and Tiffany. Basically, it's a scene. It's a part where Santa Claus is going to deliver gifts, and he's at a gravestone. And then you see Chucky and Tiffany start slashing the fuck out of this dude who's dressed up like Santa Claus, and you think it's actually them, but it's actually a set of a movie.
Yeah.
So
basically, it's a poor man's version of New Nightmare.
Where don't get me wrong, I love this idea, of the fact that they're doing satire of the whole,
They're doing their new Nightmare.
They're basically doing their new Nightmare, because basically it sets it up where Jennifer Tilly is playing herself, and she's getting she's basically getting interviewed about how getting roles in Hollywood and stuff like that, and basically, as it goes on, she's trying to get apart from Redman,
Yeah.
and the rapper, and she's trying.
This is where we get a lot of actors and producers and everybody playing themselves yet again.
Like John. Well, except John Waters. John Waters plays
John
a different
Waters is
character.
actually playing a photographer type dude.
Paparazzi.
Yeah, paparazzi guy. But anyways, majority of these people are playing themselves, and basically, I can't remember how Chucky and Tiffany survived.
Basically, what happens is Glenn travels his way to the United States, and because he wants to discover who his parents are, because he finds out that he's from Taiwan and all that. So he goes to Hollywood, and because he sees them two on TV and stuff, and he goes to Hollywood and discovers that them two are in a prop station or in the behind the scenes stuff. So he goes there and he does his ritual, the ritual that Chucky does, and he brings him back to life. And this time, the heart and Mbala, and he brings him back to life. And then they kill the prop guy, which I thought for that death, that was actually pretty good.
It was pretty good, but I don't know, man. I actually watched that scene recently, and it looks really outdated.
True, but
CGI was really...
It is, I don't know, I have to watch it again.
You gotta watch it again, because we're supposedly to believe that because Tiffany and Chucky taking hold of strings is gonna decapitate a guy. I mean... fish string. I don't know, man. I thought it was dull death. It was really just standard, trying to where we can get the cool head flying up at the screen and falling back down.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mind it too much, but anyway, we get to that, and then all of a sudden, now we're starting to see that that Tiffany and Chucky are now parents, and they realize they have a son. And so Chucky is trying to teach his son how to be a killer, but then throughout the film, it's a running theme where Glenn doesn't want to be a killer, so he doesn't.
Well, actually, Tiffany don't want to be a killer anymore.
Well, yeah, because she wants to stop killing.
She wants to stop killing, and Tiffany's actually kind of getting kind of the homage Leave It to Beaver mom type feel. Because now that she's a mother, she's like, you know what? I'm done doing this. I want to teach her son some morals. Let's actually try to get into a family and actually try to be parents. Let's do the right thing. Chucky being Chucky, he's like, fuck no, I want to kill, motherfucker.
He's like, I have a problem with killing. I don't believe in he's like violins kill you. You know, I like that line where he's talking about violins.
Yeah.
And basically what happens is Glenn is trying to basically see what goes to the film, trying to basically pick sides of who he wants to be with. And
you get a lot of Tiffany versus Chucky. You get a lot of... This movie's kind of like really dramatic, where it's like pretty much them arguing back and forth. Like, I'm right, son. No, I'm right, son. I'm like...
Yeah.
I'm doing this. I'm like, okay.
Like, I didn't mind it for like the first probably quarter of the film, but then they kind of overdo it a lot. And plus, the whole plot is that they're basically trying to get Jennifer Tilly pregnant with a new baby. And they trying to get Chucky's semen. They get Chucky's semen in her, and she starts to develop a fetus inside of her that's growing really rapidly. And what's really weird, what I don't like about the film is that they do overdo a lot of the comedy, which I thought was good in Bride, but this one they overdo so much. Because
they really pushed Chucky and Tiffany aside in this film. This is more like a Jennifer Tilly trying to get a role in a film.
And Glenn movie. Because Glenn is trying to be... Well, he's basically observing what we see as audiences, but they don't really... But they kind of overdo it too much because... other than probably a couple scenes, Chucky and Tiffany don't really have much of a role in this movie.
No, this is like their most pushed away film.
Yeah, because basically throughout the film, you're just seeing a lot of their banter back and forth, and they're always arguing, and it's funny in parts, but man, it kind of goes overdone. Yeah,
it's overdone from fucking hell, dude. And it's pretty much becomes a drama scene.
Yeah,
it becomes dramatic where they're just fucking arguing back and forth. I'm like, okay, I get it. You guys don't like each other. You want your son to be a killer. Tiffany wants to be a mom. I get what you're doing. Okay, this is the majority of the film.
Yeah, and as it goes along, other than probably a couple of deaths, the movie just doesn't really have like much like oomph to it like the other films did. Because at least Bride of Chucky, for the comedy for what it was, it at least felt like very genuine and funny. This one, it felt very forced in a lot of scenes.
Not to mention, do you also kind of question continuity of how Chucky's son ended in England.
I did question that, yeah, because, I mean, at the very end of the last movie, we clearly see... I mean, the only thing I can guess is that the cop from the last movie, because he got killed, they probably, like, shipped the dolls somewhere probably else, but they don't even elaborate that, because they don't even bring up how the fuck... They don't even
Why would they ship it overseas, though? That's the question.
That's what I'm saying, yeah. So, yeah, that's a continuity problem. But also that, and, okay, I'll give it this. I do like the idea of them doing like a satire of Hollywood and stuff and all that. Like, I liked where it was going, but they don't really elaborate much with it. Because unlike Wes Craven's New Nightmare, where they do go into more like depth with the whole satire, with the making the film within
brutality,
the film within the film kind of aspect, they don't really do much with this one because they're kind of just like kind of glanced over in favor of the Tiffany and Chucky story, you know. And it just really felt really kind of just weird. Yeah, it just felt it didn't really feel like
I didn't really care for this film at all. So basically, we get Chucky and Tiffany. They go at it, and I believe it gets to a part where Chucky actually kills Tiffany because he's tired of her. He goes, "I'm done. I want another wife."
Yeah.
So he kills Tiffany, and Glenn gets pissed off. So it's Glenn versus Chucky film. And then Glenn ends up taking out Chucky.
And then we get born with Jennifer Tilly, who has the twins.
Yeah.
And I do commend them for this. I do like this, where basically in the end, Jennifer Tilly has the babies.
And they look like Chucky's.
They do like Chucky's, yeah, because she has her own child who resembles Glenn. It's Glenn and Glenn. So basically it's twins. Yeah. So she has twins that are now killers, because now... What the audience doesn't realize is toward the end of the film is that Tiffany's soul is transferred into Jennifer Tilly, which I thought was cool because when she kills the maid, that did kind of surprise me. I was like, holy shit, she's now in Jennifer Tilly's body.
Yeah,
you know, so I do like that. The only thing I do kind of wonder is how the fuck did Chucky survive at the end of it? Because it shows that his arm is still alive at the end of it.
Yeah,
you know,
like his shit just popped out of nowhere. I'm like, okay, this really dull. I really absolutely fucking hated this movie.
Yeah,
I really did not like
it. Like, other than probably a few of the things to do with the satire parts, the movie just really I thought it was worse than 3, because at least 3 got some enjoyment out of me.
Like I said, it's a 5. The 3 was a 5.5 out of me, or 5 out of 10. It was a 5 out of 10 for me. I can do with that. I find myself watching 1, 2, 3, 4, and I have to skip to 6 because I really can't stand this film. This film is also tries to kill the continuity altogether. And I'm sorry, this is really a horrible, horrible film. It's a 1 out of 10 for me. It was one of the worst films of that year.
It's about a 3 out of 10 for me. Like it's
you liked it more than I did.
I liked. Okay,
it was absolutely.
I liked some of the things they had more in the film. But it still isn't a good movie. No, it's definitely bad. It is bad. But I can say that for the parts they did do right with. Yeah. So I liked what they did with it as far as the comedy, but they overdid it too fucking much.
I can't put this with my franchise when I'm watching. I can own it, but I'll never watch it as a marathon. I just can't watch it, man. I mean, cool, they killed Redman and they did a gory scene where they're pulling all kinds of shit
and testing this out and all that.
I mean, even that looked fucking really bad.
I thought that looked alright.
It was, I don't know, man. This movie was just fucking horrible. It's a 1 out of 10.
Well, but yeah, basically after this, pretty much what happened was, for a long time, we didn't see any Child's Play movies, because basically what this film happened was
they pretty much killed it.
This film killed the franchise by saying, yeah, it didn't really do too. I don't think it did too well at the box office. Basically, after 2004, we didn't see any other slasher sequels for a long time.
No.
So we get to 2013, where it was believed that we were getting a straight to video. Because, okay, little backstory. For a while, in 2008, they announced that they were going to do a remake of the first Child's Play movie, and Brad Dourif was going to come back to do Chucky. Now, the problem with that was they took a long time as far as I think it might have to do with script changes or something, because they took a long time trying to get what they had in mind.
Yeah.
So between that time, in 2013, they announced that they were going to do another sequel, which brought back Brad Dourif, which I was like, okay, all right, let's see what we got here. Then when they released The Sopranos, I was like, wow. Or, sorry, when they released the trailer, I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this a shot. Because the trailer they released had it where it looked like they were going back to their original roots, where it's going to be like the first film again. We're starting to see more. It's the same director, too, Don Mancini, or I don't know how to pronounce his name, but it's the same director of the first movie, or the same writer of the first film is come back to direct this movie.
Yeah. So basically, they're pretty much ignoring 5 because 5 was such a horrible fucking piece of shit. We're at least acknowledging 1 through 4, but 5 is just a questionable because we don't really fucking care about it.
Yeah.
It was that bad of a fucking movie. So we get Curse of Chucky, the 6th installment.
Yeah, and basically, Curse of Chucky was basically the attempt of the original writer from the original movie directing this time, and the movie is trying to attempt to go back to the original roots of the first film.
Where it's dark again.
Where it's dark, and you're seeing just Chucky going back to his ways of being more scarier again, which is cool, because I do like that approach.
So we go into this house.
We go in this house, which has a woman who, as the film progresses, you start to notice something about her where we start, because what happens is the woman gets killed at the very beginning, and then we're introduced to her daughter in the film, who's in a wheelchair, and then her family moves in, and we start to notice that they realize that there's a doll there that gets delivered in a package, and the doll that they realize was from the 80s and stuff, and also that they realize, well, as the film progresses, you start to realize there's certain things that the original owner of the house had connections with throughout the film.
Yep.
So, what I love about, I gotta admit, man, this movie surprised me. Like,
yeah.
I
don't understand why this wasn't a theoretical film, because it was shot theoretical.
It did. Like, I realized the film was shot digitally, and it's different from, like, some of the other films' looks, but this film really could pull off a theoretical look to it.
Yeah, at least limited. It could have been something. It was not worth the straight to video. I mean,
as I'm saying, like, the way that it was made and everything, it could have made a good, like, theatrical movie. So, because throughout the film, the first half really feels like the first movie again, where the first half builds up to where you're starting to see, you're kind of getting, it's kind of like in the first film again, where you're kind of getting the idea that possibly the child is kind of, you might think that she's behind everything, where you think that she's probably doing all the things that are happening, but it's later revealed that it's obviously Chucky.
Yeah, yeah.
But they have it to where,
about this point now, you can't do that psychological shit with us after it's a 6th installment.
Yeah, true, but I'm just saying, like, they try to go back to that approach, which is good as far as keeping the continuity-wise. But basically they have it to where the murders come up after a priest gets killed, and as the movie goes on, you start to realize that Chucky's doing all the murders and everything, and so you start to see some really brutal deaths. I gotta admit, this one got me the feeling like I had with the fourth
people
one.
in the house started turning up dead.
Yeah. But
and not only that, they actually get rid of the whole stitch fill, and Chucky's actually put himself in a completely new doll. And it looks pretty fucking
great.
Brutal,
he looks like the first doll from the first one.
Yeah.
But also, as the film goes on, it's not really until the last half of the film which really got my attention, because the last story, because after the movie goes on, you start to see all the people slowly dying and everything, and then you see the daughter who's in the wheelchair trying to stop them.
Yeah.
There's this cool, I'm going to admit right now, this film has one of the best twist endings I've ever come across in a slasher film.
So we actually get a backstory here where Chucky, we actually get to see Brad Dourif playing Charles Lee Ray. We get
in
history,
human form.
And then we get to actually see him and Jennifer Tilly.
Yeah.
When they're like boyfriend and girlfriend back, they do a lot of backstory.
No, Jennifer Tilly wasn't in the flashbacks.
Oh, I thought she was.
Oh. No. Redo that.
Okay. I can't
He was in, Brad Dourif was in human form, and it was showing in flashbacks where he was before the events of the first movie.
Okay, yeah. Alright, continue.
So basically, we get a flashback that's pretty cool, because what happens is Brad Dourif portrays Charles Lee Ray in a flashback that shows him actually before the events of Child's Play, where he comes across the mother of the house. Yeah, and you actually get to see that she actually had kind of a thing for her.
Yeah, he was cheating. That's what it was. Yeah, he was fucking around, and then like, yeah, he had like a thing for that chick. Yeah, I remember that.
And then she was she was pregnant with the main girl in the movie.
Yeah,
which is funny because in real life, that girl who's in the wheelchair, that's actually Brad Dourif's daughter.
That's funny.
Yeah. Well, actually, I think it's his granddaughter.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's funny like that. She's actually related to Brad Dourif.
Yeah.
But anyway, but yeah, we get this cool twist that happens where Brad Dourif, Charles Lee Ray, is encountering the woman of the household, the original owner, and you see that he had a thing with her, and the fact that she was pregnant and didn't want to have any part with him because she realizes he's a murderer. That actually ties in to the fucking first movie, which I really loved.
Yeah.
You know, I love that twist they have where it's actually him actually like at the scene where she's about to get her where she's impregnant and everything. It shows him taking the knife and actually I think like stabbing her in the leg or something where she's kind of crippled.
He's doing some things where he runs, and that's where it leads into the part one where he's getting chased by
Chris Sarandon.
Yeah. Getting chased by the cop, and that's where it leads into the first one.
That I thought was really fucking great.
Yeah, that's actually good, closing, like filling in the gaps and seeing what leads up to it.
Yeah,
yeah.
And also we get a cool like twist that happens where, basically in the end, Chucky once again is. This is kind of cool because in the end, basically the dog gets taken. But we're led to believe that possibly he gets away because in the end he goes to another.
We find out that the girl was his daughter and all that stuff. Well, the girl makes insults about how because he starts talking about some shit, and the girl read up on him and said pretty much how like she's making fun of all the people that he's like fought against, and he's like, yeah, I killed him the horrible way.
Yeah, they even mentioned the other films, like they mentioned the Barclays, the family from Bride of Chucky, and the family from Seed,
and then talk about all the films, and she goes, but there's one you've never defeated, Andy.
Yeah,
and she starts rubbing his face because he doesn't like defeat. He's like, fuck you, bitch, and he's getting all pissed off, and she does what she does to him. Well, we get this like ending where pretty much he gets away. Kind of thing.
Well, it shows where he's. Well, no, there was another ending. No. Before we get to that, it was showing Tiffany. Well, I'm sorry. It shows a cop ends up getting the doll somehow, and then it kind of throws her like, wait a minute. This kind of reminds me of another movie. It goes where the cop is in the cop car, and then he calls the woman. He calls somebody. He's like, yeah, you have my money. You're kind of thinking, like, wait a minute, is this the fucking beginning of Bride? Because it kind of throws you off, like, is this a prequel to fucking Bride?
Yeah.
Where it shows him on the phone and everything, and then all of a sudden you see fucking Tiffany behind the fucking cop car in the back seat where she slits the dude's throat.
Yeah, she slits the dude's throat, but it throws it off because how she was at in the fourth one. It kind of.
Well, because at this point, because. It is continuity-wise, because in the last film, she became Jennifer Tilly.
Yeah.
In this film, she's flat-out Tiffany, where she's still Jennifer Tilly, but she's Tiffany.
So then, now we get to the scene where Chucky, because he couldn't handle the insults of what his daughter said about how he couldn't defeat Andy, they go and get the real guy from Andy from the original series.
Alex Vincent.
Yeah, and he's actually been waiting on Chucky to show up at his front door for many years. So Chucky is going through all these homes and stuff, killing all the other people that he did get insulted. He gets to Andy and he gets up and he goes, Andy! And then fucking he blows fucking
He's like,
Chucky.
play with this.
Yeah, he goes, boom! And blows him. Man, it's a real fucking kid, too.
Yeah, it's the same kid that played him in the original movies, which I thought was great.
Yeah, he paid his homage to the series, so... I really did
like this movie a lot. Like, it's granted, it's not as good as like the first movie, but it's definitely like up to par of Bride.
I'm gonna say it's an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, it's an 8 out of 10 for me. Like I could have seen more of some of the deaths. They could have done more because
they could have. Body count's kind of
no, it's not the body count. It's just they don't really go into detail as far as the death scenes, other than probably the part with like the priest and then the girl with the fucking eyeball.
Yeah.
But other than that, they don't really go into much detail with some of them. But I do like what they did as far as bringing the scares back, because this movie is very atmospheric again.
Yeah.
You know?
So, anyways, it's an 8 out of 10 for me. Now, there is rumors they're going to do a 7th installment, which is supposed to be supposedly trying to get it out to a 2018 release.
Possibly, yeah. But there's two things I heard. They're trying to do a sequel, but also they're doing a remake. Now,
the remake is.
Now I heard Brad Dourif is coming back one last time for the sequel.
Yeah,
but
that's his closure.
That's gonna suck because from what I heard, he was supposed to do the remake.
We're supposed to do 2018. It's supposed to be the final to close out this franchise completely. 2021, 2022, we're supposed to get a remake, but this is actually closing out Brad Dourif.
Yeah.
Yep, this next one.
I tell you, man, it's going to be hard if they ever replace him as Chucky. Because
they are. Unfortunately, they do want to do a remake that's going to come out 2021, 2022, some shit around there, but they're going to focus on giving it a final closure to this franchise.
Which I'm all for, because I can understand Brad Dourif. You know, he's up for it and everything. I hope he comes back because I really love him as Chucky.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. I just really hope they at least do something that's not what we've seen before, you know, and at least give us something that we can live on a high note.
Yeah. So, yeah.
We do thank you for listening to us. We hope you enjoyed our retrospective. And let me get what did you guys think of the Child's Play films? Comment below, and if you like what you see here, you can check us out on Film Freaks on YouTube, and you can check us out on Facebook, and you can check us out on some of our other videos, and we'll be seeing you guys in our next review. See ya.